What's going on, loves? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about my journey with depression and just my overall mental health journey. I was going to wait to do this video because I just didn't feel ready, but I have gotten so many emails from so many of you who are struggling with the same thing, who have been asking me like what I'm taking and asking for advice on how to overcome depression, and a couple people who were struggling with just really dark thoughts and things like that, which I can completely relate to. And I felt like the time was now that I needed to do this video because it's a really important subject that I feel like people, especially Christians, kind of like brush off and make you believe if you're a strong Christian, then you wouldn't be struggling with depression, and your depression just means that you're not right with God, or whatever else people, Christians say to make you believe that your depression is a result of a lack of a relationship with God, because that couldn't be farther from the truth. So let me just take you back to the beginning. When I was little, I was always I've always been a really emotional person. I have the ability to empathize with people. If someone is telling me their story, I have the ability to actually feel their pain and feel their emotion, which I think is a gift, but I had to learn how to be able to be there for that person and empathize with that person without walking away and carrying their emotions with me, if that makes any sense. So when I was little, I was just a very emotional child. There was always this level of sadness, even as far back as I can remember. When I think about my childhood, when people ask me what my childhood was like, I always say I had the best childhood. My family was great. We ate dinner together every night. My dad was the coach of everything. Everything was awesome. But I still, the emotions, you know how every season of your life has a different emotion tied to it? You can kind of feel the feelings that you felt in that time of your life. Well, for me, my whole childhood, most of my life carried this heaviness. There was just a lot of heaviness, a lot of emotions. I know a lot of it had to do with once I got into school. I have major social anxiety, so now it's a little bit better. I know how to control it, but I still get it. Those who know me, my friends, know how weird I am about being around people I don't know. I still get social anxiety pretty intense, but when I was little, it was out of control. I cried every single day from first grade all the way through fourth grade. I didn't cry in kindergarten. I don't know why. I think because kindergarten is just easy. It was fun. I loved my teacher, which nowadays it's different because I feel like kids in kindergarten get second grade homework. But when, back in the day when I was a little youngin', because I'm not old, but I'm not young either. But back in that day, kindergarten was just fun. You learn certain things, but it's just mostly playful, whatever. So it was fun. But then once first grade hit and that homework started coming in, my perfectionism turned on, and I was just like, this is too much pressure. I have to have all my homework done. I wanted to be perfect. I wanted my grades to be perfect. I wanted my parents to be proud of me. I was a major people pleaser most of my life, especially at that age. I just wanted my parents to be proud of me. I wanted everything to be awesome. So the pressure of school paired with depression, and at that time I didn't know, obviously I was depressed, but I was just always sad. I was always sad, even on the weekends. Friday I would cry, of course. Before I went to school, I would get to school and I would cry in school. The kids probably thought I was super weird, but honestly I didn't care what anybody thought. I didn't really pay attention to anybody. I just was worried about going there, doing my homework, hurrying up and getting home so I can be with my family. Saturday I was fine because there's no school. Everything's great. But then Sunday would be a horrible day because I know school's tomorrow. Even throughout my whole life, if something fun is happening, or if I'm in a relationship and everything's awesome, then I'm happy. But if something goes wrong, or if that person's mad at me, or if something bad happens, then I'm really depressed. So I was depressed all my childhood. I cried every day until fourth grade, when I think things turned a little bit because I really loved my teacher and it just looked a little bit brighter. But I still struggled emotionally. My mom always taught me when I was young to ask the Lord to help me to control my emotions. I remember this so vividly because I got to a point in fourth grade where I was just I don't want to be like this anymore. I don't want to cry every day anymore. Why am I crying? Once I get to school, I'm usually okay, but I think, I just didn't like how I felt. And my mom said, Shanna, you just have to ask the Lord to help you to control your emotions. Anytime you start to feel those emotions rise, ask the Lord to help you to control them. So I did that all the time, all day. I'd be Lord, please help me to control control my emotions. Lord, please help me to control my emotions. I'd have to go to the bathroom and pray, and it was just it was really tough for me. So then fast forward to 6th grade, you know, same thing, just really struggling with depression, but it wasn't until my parents announced that they were separated that my whole world just collapsed. I mean, I thought it this whole time, they never argued, like everything was great, we did everything together, like it was perfect, and at least in my head it was perfect. But they sat me and my brother down separately and told us that they were separated and that they had been separated for 6 years, but we had no idea. And that was when everything, it was like somebody pulled the rug up from under me and my world just collapsed. I stopped caring. I didn't care about my homework. I didn't care about anything. I'm like, if this one thing that I trusted in, like I didn't even know that my family was falling apart, and now all of a sudden, the one thing that I thought was like so perfect and put together was a lie, is what I was feeling at that age. And I was like, I can't trust anything. So I just started hanging out with different people, and I started kind of like caring more about boys, and like it just, I was never promiscuous, and especially at that age, but like I was more easily influenced in middle school, and it was just bad. So I was depressed through then, but then, you know, fast forward high school, I just got really insecure, and then I ended up in a relationship with someone, and I was in that relationship for 4 years. We were together. The last 2 years were kind of off and on because he cheated on me, and it was just a really emotionally abusive situation that later on turned physically abusive, and it was just bad. I was a mess. And I remember in high school, I would always go to the guidance counselor of the school, and she was awesome. And she suggested that I go on antidepressants, and I talked to my mom about it. My mom struggled with depression for years throughout her life also, and she tried antidepressants, but I think that was at a time when they weren't as developed as they are now. So she was just like, no way, because there were just a lot of really negative side effects, and she didn't want to put me through that. And I didn't really want to do it. I was so against it. So that was brushed off, and then life happens years down the road, fast forward. And I went through a lot of periods of my life where I was just incredibly depressed. I mean, I would pray that the Lord would take me. I would pray that he would rapture me. Like, I just want him to rapture us, because I don't want to be here anymore. And I wasn't suicidal, but I was just like I never, and even to this day, I never feel like this is my home. Like, I don't feel like I belong here. I belong in heaven. Heaven is my home. I truly believe that. But I do know now that I have a purpose here. It took a lot of years to get to the point to where I was actually walking in my purpose. But before then, I'm just like feeling like I'm flailing. I'm like, what is my purpose? Like, this is so useless. Like, I just want to be done. And okay, so fast forward to 2014, and that was probably the absolute darkest year of my entire life. I just started to be in a relationship with someone, and that relationship, I thought I was gonna marry this guy, but it ended up being really destructive for me. The lack of care in that relationship really triggered my depression, and it was just horrible. I thought he was this amazing, outstanding man. I thought he would treat me like a queen, and it was totally opposite. Like, he treated me like a queen when he wanted something, or when I threatened to walk away. But then when he didn't want something, he treated me like a convenience. So for me, that really triggered my depression, and it was just really, really bad, especially because I thought he was this person that he wasn't. So a lot of things in 2014 happened, and while I was in that relationship, my family, like just the situation with my family, my mom was taking care of my grandfather at the time, and they lived out in the country, and my grandfather was not the nicest man in the world, and he made her life miserable. And it was hard because it was hard watching my mom suffer. That to me, I think, was the hardest, because my mom is like an angel. So to see her crying all the time, and to see her struggling, and to see her suffering was so hard on me. And you know, everything got really, really bad that year because my grandfather got really sick. He had a stroke, and I mean, tons of stuff happened. He had like diverticulitis, and like, I mean, so his health declined so rapidly, and my mom was so affected. And it was at a point where her life started to look up. She started to get into a position to where she was better off, and then boom, all this stuff happened, and then she became miserable. So, you know, I'm struggling struggling, trying to help her to make it. I'm trying to be there for her. I'm trying to do everything that I can to help her in any way I could, and it was just really hard on me. So that was really tough. Then my grandfather was in and out of the hospital, and even though he wasn't the nicest man in the world, he was still my grandfather, and I loved him. That same year in May, I had a cat. His name was Sunny, and that was my baby. Sunny and I grew up together, and I had him ever since I moved out right out of high school. That was really hard. Like a month later, I found out that I had a sister, and when my dad first told me about Kareen, you guys know Kareen, I was mortified because you just don't ever know who someone is. So when I first found out about this, I was devastated. I was afraid that my family was gonna love her and hate me. I was afraid that, you know, she was gonna come in and disrupt everything. There were so many things that were like plaguing me in this situation, which she is the absolute biggest blessing. I could not have asked for a better sister. Upon receiving this information, I was mortified. So that was hard on me. And then every time I would go to the guy that I was dating about stuff that was going on, he was so not supportive. Like there were a couple of moments where he tried to be supportive, but it just really made my depression worse. And that was the year that I moved to Indianapolis, so that was a challenge. So like that whole year was just really, really challenging for me in so many ways. And that year, with all of those things, all of those challenges that were presented to me, I remember feeling really dark emotions and feeling like I wanted to end things. I had never experienced anything like that before, like suicidal thoughts and feeling like I can't do this anymore. It's so weird because I look back and I'm like, that was so Satan. Oh my gosh, that was Satan. One of my friends, he was a worship leader for this conference that I used to be a part of every year called the One Girl Conference, and he was in charge of finding roles for different sessions and stuff like that, because we, you know, the girls would go to these breakout sessions so that they can be ministered to in different ways. And he asked me that year to lead one of the main sessions. And if, you know, those who know me know that speaking public, I mean, my social anxiety, are you kidding me? You want me to do what? No. If he had asked me any other year, I would have been like, that's a negative, because I'm not gonna stand up here and talk to all these people. Like, are you kidding me? But the point that he asked me was at such a low point. I was so surrendered. My depression and the darkness that I felt put me in a position of full surrender. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna consider this to be a challenge from God. And if you ask me to do this, I know that God, nothing happens for no reason. I know that every situation is presented to us for a purpose, and even in that dark time I knew that. So I took that as a challenge. I'm like, okay, yes, I'll do it. I told him I would do it. I started preparing for it, and literally as soon as I hung up the phone, it was almost like Satan was just like, no. And he went in on me, and I mean, it was so bad. My depression got worse. I was incredibly suicidal. I got to a point to where I felt like I had to talk to someone, and I felt like the person that I'm dating should be the person that I talk to about it. So it was really hard for me because he always told me I was too emotional, and I could tell that he was turned off by my emotions, but I really felt that it was important for me to tell him what I was going through and allow him the opportunity to be there for me if he was really meant to be in my life. And I remember we went to dinner, and after dinner we sat in the car, and I was just crying. I cried a lot. That whole year was just so full of tears. And I told him, I was like, you know, I am really embarrassed to tell you this, but this is what I'm going through. And I told him that I was suicidal, and he said he was sorry that I was going through that, and he prayed for me. And then after that, every time we would go out, like, he would treat me like his homie. He would do this, we would do that. He would side hug me. He wouldn't let me stay at his house anymore. Like, it was just really, like, he emotionally distanced himself. And there was one time specifically where it was a Friday night, and we went, and this is before the conference. The conference, I think, was in like a couple weeks from this point, and we went to the movies. After the movie, usually I would like go to his house, and I would stay the night, and he was just like, you should probably go home tonight. And I didn't end up going to his house, and I was like, really? And then he side hugged me, and I went separate ways. So he started treating me like his homie. He wouldn't call me babe anymore, and he wasn't like doing, like, it was just really bad. And so I felt so like that was a really, really bad night. So I was like, boom, bawling in the car, and I'm like, the one person that is supposed to be here for me that way, like the man that I'm dating, the man that I could potentially marry, and he treats me like his homie after I tell him what I'm going through. It got really intense after that. I remember I went for a drive all around because driving relaxes me, and I would do that a lot at that time that year. I got home finally, I pulled into the garage, I closed the garage door, and I kept the car running. And I was just bawling. I'm like, God, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. The man that I'm with, it doesn't even care about me. Everything in my life is falling apart. I don't know what my purpose is. What is the point? I don't want to do this. And I was so beside myself, and I just let it run, and I let it run, and I let the car run for a long time. And I was just closing my eyes and I'm praying, and I'm like, God, please forgive me for this, but I can't do this. And I remember hearing so loudly, like it wasn't like a soft whisper, like, Shanna, turn the car off. It was like, Shanna, turn that car off right now. And I'm like, God, I don't want to turn the car off. I don't want to. And he said, turn the car off. You are not done here. And then I started thinking about, like, oh gosh, like the conference is in a couple weeks, and if I don't show up to that conference, then, you know, people are gonna be like, what happened to her? My friend, who was the one who asked me to lead the session at the conference, he would have known. I don't flake on stuff like this. I would have at least communicated to him and told him I didn't want to do it if I wasn't gonna show up. But I knew that no one would know I was gone because I didn't have anyone. My mom was the only person at that time, and Andrea were the only people at that time who would know something is wrong, but they were both way too far away to check on me. So I would be able to get away with this, and my body would be rotten by the time anybody found me. I thought about the conference, and I thought about my mom, and I'm like, my mom is gonna be okay. She'll be better off without me. I didn't have Sonny anymore to consider because he passed away, and I'm just like, it doesn't matter. The guy that I'm dating won't care. I don't have any friends around here who would even know to check on me. Like, no one would care. What is the point? But God said, people are going to be waiting for you. Your purpose right now is this conference, and you need to turn that car off right now because you have a mission right now. And I was so mad. Oh my gosh, I was mad. God spoke to me so loudly, and his presence was so heavy, and I turned the car off and I ran upstairs and I slammed the door, and I'm just pissed, and I threw myself on the floor crying. I mean, I was crying so hard, like sobbing, like I don't want to do this. It was such a horrible time, and it was hard after that, and every day was a battle. The day of the conference came, and I woke up and I felt normal. It was really weird. Like, I know it was God. And I go and I do the conference, and I felt like myself. I felt chipper, and I felt excited, and I felt normal. I felt like me, and it went so well, and I was so proud of myself, and it was just so great. And then after that, the suicidal thoughts were gone. Like, it was such intense spiritual warfare, and Satan did not want me on that stage ministering to these girls, because as soon as the day came, everything lifted and I was fine. And so after the conference, my suicidal thoughts were gone. I still had, I still struggled with depression, and all the way up through, whatever. But it wasn't until, honestly, guys, that I met Greg, and everything with Greg was awesome in the beginning. I told Greg before we got married, I sat him down and I was like crying, and I'm like, I don't think you understand how bad this can be sometimes. And he's like, no, I love you, it's okay. And I'm like, I don't think you get it. Like, my depression gets so bad sometimes that I don't think you can handle it. I just get sad for no reason, and I don't know how to control it. No, I love you, I love you. But then when we actually got married and I was struggling with my depression, I realized how badly it was affecting him. And I remember, you know, whenever I would call his mom sometimes, and whenever, you know, she would come visit or we would go visit, I would ask her to pray for me, because I told her, I was like, I don't want this to affect our marriage. And so she would pray for me, and she recommended that I go to my doctor and look into getting an antidepressant. And at first I was just like, no, I don't want to do that. I was very anti-antidepressants, because I think I had that same perspective that God should be able to heal me, which God definitely is a healer. Don't get it twisted. God can heal depression. He can. And he healed me. I've gone through a lot of like healing prayer sessions where the Lord restored me. Dealing with a lot of my past and my childhood hurts and, you know, even things throughout my whole life has really healed my depression dramatically. But for me and with a lot of people, there is a level of a chemical imbalance that I was fighting, because I had that same perspective that my depression was a reflection of kind of where I was spiritually. Me feeling the sadness for no reason, like even in those moments, I'm fully aware that there is absolutely nothing wrong and I have no reason to feel sad at all for any reason, but I'm still really sad. And it was a chemical imbalance. So I talked to my mom about it, and I talked to Gail about it. Gail was huge because she works at Eli Lilly, which is a pharmaceutical company, and she understands how medications work, and she explained to me a little bit more thorough what medications do, like how they help you, and how different ones are for different people and different ones affect everyone differently. And honestly, my friend who was the worship leader for that One Girl conference, David, he was huge also, because he shared his story with me, and that was huge for me, because I never in a million years would have thought that certain people struggled with the same thing as I did. And when they shared their stories with me and shared with me that they, like what they're on and what their journey was like, it helped me to see that I'm not alone. I'm not alone. And that was very comforting. But it wasn't until like my marriage started to really fall apart that I was like, I'm willing to do anything to make this marriage work. I started to see a therapist. I went to my doctor and I asked the doctor to help me. I wanted her to help me, and I knew that it might be a long journey. I know some people have to try many different medications before they find the one that works for them, but I am so thankful to God that the first one that I tried was the one that worked for me. And so I'm on a very low dose of Lexapro, and it's just very mild. The first day it started working for me, which I guess, you know, doesn't always happen for people, but for me it did. And I'm telling you guys, it changed my life. It has changed my life, because I can get really sad, especially now. Obviously I'm going through a really horrible time in my life, going through a divorce, but the antidepressant just puts me in a position to where I'm not seeing through a dark cloud. I can be sad and it doesn't make the pain go away, but it helps me to not be consumed by the pain. Like I might have a whole day where I just cry all day. Like yesterday, I cried all day yesterday. It was a hard day, but I wasn't fully consumed by it. I wasn't feeling depressed. There was no thick dark cloud over my head, and I wasn't feeling like I was being suffocated. Depression is horrible. It makes you feel like you are literally suffocating. Like you can't breathe because you're just in so much emotional agony, and it is awful. So going on the antidepressant has literally changed my entire life. This small dose has made me clearer headed. I can think clearer. I can rationalize better. I'm still a really emotional person, but like I said, I'm just not consumed by my emotions now. Now I feel like myself. I feel brighter. I feel happier. I actually have a lot more energy. Like all those vlogs where I was just like, I'm so tired all the time and I feel fatigued all the time, and I felt fatigued my whole life, I feel like. But now I have more energy. I feel like I want to do things more. I feel more lively. I want to hang out with people. I want to meet new people. Like it has just changed my life. So now up to this point, you know, I'm going through this really tough phase of my life, this really tough season of my life, but I think that's why like I'm able to put things in perspective. Like the Lord saved me. He saved me from my depression. Like I would not have gone to the doctor to get on an antidepressant if it wasn't for the fact that I wanted to save my marriage. Because when you're going through depression and you're the only one affected, it's completely different. It's very unhealthy to just allow yourself to withdraw and not allow yourself to be around other people because you don't want them to be affected, which is what I did. And that's not healthy. But I figured, you know, no one else is gonna be dealing with it, so who cares? I don't want people to see this, so I'm not gonna be around them. But, you know, if I'm just by myself, then oh well. But since I knew my husband was so affected by it, I knew it was time to do something, because I don't want him to have to go through this. Because it wasn't about him. My emotions, what I was feeling, my sadness, my depression had nothing to do with him. It was everything to do with me and my imbalance, and getting on, like I said, getting on this pill changed everything. So I wanted to share this with you guys because I think, you know, most of you have been so amazing and supportive, and you guys are awesome. And there have been several of you who reached out to me via email or Instagram or whatever, and I haven't gotten to everybody yet, but who have shared a little bit of your story and have, you know, told me that you are struggling with depression too, and asking me what I'm on and all these things. And there's so many people who are going through this. There's so more people are struggling with depression than not. And I think that it's just such a taboo subject that Christians especially are so judgmental about. And I feel like Christians need to understand that everybody's story is different, everybody's situation is different, and just because you might not need something to balance you out doesn't mean that the next person doesn't need something to balance them out. Everybody is different. And for me, being in the position to where I was judgmental about it and like, I don't need that, God is gonna heal me. And yes, God is a healer, and He has healed me tremendously. And even with, I believe that He has put me in the position to have this antidepressant to heal me. I really believe that. And because I have been on both sides, I fully see now that we cannot allow other Christians' judgmental perspectives to stop us from getting the healing that we need. Will we need to be on them forever? Maybe not. I think one of the biggest problems with people is that they don't deal with their issues. Because we all have issues. We all have pains that, you know, some of us just want to shove down and bottle up, and then eventually we just explode. But there are a lot of people who legitimately just need that extra help to balance them out, because there is a chemical imbalance that needs to be dealt with. And I am one of those people. And I just want to encourage those of you who are struggling and who have tried everything, who have gotten the healing, who, you know, have been seeking God's presence and staying in the Word and seeking counsel, and who still have a hard time and are struggling emotionally or having suicidal thoughts or whatever the case may be. Please talk to someone who can help you, and consider seeking advice on whether you might need an antidepressant or not. It's huge that I'm even here talking about this, and it's huge the fact that I'm even on them, because I'm so anti-doctors, I'm so anti-medication. But this is serious. It really is serious, and people who haven't been depressed take it so lightly, and they don't understand. They don't understand. And honestly, you can't blame them for that, because if you have never been depressed, you won't understand. And I think that's a blessing, because depression is the worst. Depression is absolutely the worst. You know, maybe some things that you guys can do. I feel like, you know, the first step is to seek a therapist. Find someone who you trust, that you can confide in. Tell them, like, help them to work through some things that, even when you are on the antidepressant, continue to go to therapy so the therapist can help you to work through your different issues, because that's really, really important. Have a mentor, a spiritual mentor. God is everything. This life is absolutely nothing without God. And it's important to have people in your life that you really trust, who can help guide you spiritually, because sometimes being open to constructive criticism and to hearing from people that you love and trust areas that you need to change, and maybe things that you do that, you know, aren't helping you. You don't want to go to people who enable you, who will help you sweep your problems under the rug or help you shove skeletons in the closet. That is not helpful. You need people who are willing to be brutally honest with you, to tell you where you are wrong, to help you to confront your issues, because God is there to help you. But those issues that we need help with need to be dealt with. And that doesn't mean sweeping them under the rug or shoving them in the closet. It means facing them, talking about them, dealing with them so that you can be free from it. That's one thing that I really want to strongly stress to you guys is surround yourself with people who are honest, who do not enable you, and who will help you to deal with who you really are, if that is your problem. And find things in life that you love and things that you enjoy. Our lives are meant to be lived, and I think that this is an area that I struggle with. I'm learning how to fill my life with things that I love. That's why I go to the gym so much, because I truly and thoroughly love going to the gym and trying to find more things that I love to do to fill my life with, so that I have that excitement, having things to look forward to, things that just make you happy. Fill your life with happy things and happy people. That's gonna help you. I hope that this video was helpful for those of you who are struggling, and for those of you who are not struggling, I also hope that this is helpful for you to better understand other people who are struggling with this very thing, and it needs to be talked about more. I feel like people are so embarrassed. I was so humiliated when I was going through my suicidal period. I was so embarrassed because I knew people were gonna judge me, but it's so important. Transparency is so important, because you never know if something that you share with someone could help them. That's why I'm so open about my life, and that's why I feel the need to be transparent, because there are like I said, there's so many people who have sent me emails telling me that they're going through the same thing, and I feel like it's our duty, especially as people of God, to be transparent and share our story, just because we could help someone else, if in no other way but to let them know that they're not alone, and that is huge. So I pray that I did that today. I really felt strongly led to share the story today, and I pray that it helps someone. That's my story. I know that it's something that I might always have to battle, but it's something that I'm confronting, and it's something that I seek daily for healing. And you know, with the help of this antidepressant, I know I can fight. I'm fighting. I'm a fighter. And I know you guys are fighters too, so if you're going through it, don't give up. Do not give up. Don't let those dark thoughts consume you. Don't let them take control. Take control. Go seek help. Don't be embarrassed to tell people. And if the people that are closest to you are people who are not supportive and who will judge you, then find someone who will understand, who can help you, who can be that support for you, because there are so many people who are willing to be that for you. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, because it really helps my channel. Comment, share, subscribe, and help me to continue growing my family. Bye, loves.